Hello, gotta make this relatively quick because I just remembered that in about 40 minutes time I've got a Patreon hangout that I need to, well, at least a watch stream thing that I've got to watch. So this is the second episode where now that we're catching up on more of the characters who we neglected in the last episode, the runtime actually seems much more appropriate and things are speeding up. So most of my criticisms of the last episode were the pacing seemed a bit too slow. Now we're kind of introducing more and more things, and it kind of justifies the larger runtime. So, and I know from the preview of the next episode that we're going to be introduced to even more people. So that seems all like fine. I revoke my previous criticisms of the pacing of the show. Again, we pick up from where the last episode left off. Celebrimbor is being manipulated by Sauron in something which for us is so simple but also very believable. It works. I mean, firstly, Sauron, through their machinations, managed to prevent the messengers getting to Celebrimbor. So I can't pronounce the freaking name. Celebrimbor. Carabim. It's not. Well, the reason is I'm doing it wrong is because I'm saying certain, not care. Celebrimbor. Celebrimbor. Absolutely not reading off the screen. Elves, not the users' names. The messages that Gilgalad sent to Celebrimbor never arrived, and so Celebrimbor is like, well, I don't know. I'm in the dark about everything. And someone's very easily able to play off that anxiety and be like, oh, they keep you in the dark. Well, I have news, and obviously you're going to be like, I mean, it's a very easy thing to be tempted by. If you're not being told anything by lots of people, even some suspicious, giving you a little bit of information is enough. And then he's able to do his whole like fancy light show where he basically paints himself as this messenger from their literal deities. It's a pretty convincing argument to make if you're not warned, but this is literally the Dark Lord. So that was done pretty effectively. I mean, it's so simple and it's like normally when a villain's deceiving someone and it's so obvious, you want to scream out, but it's acted so well and it's done so Shakespeareanly and so kind of with so much, I guess, self-awareness of the dramatical irony that it actually does deliver. I continue to love Jaren and Disa's relationship and his relationship with his father. This whole thing of like strong dwarven bondship and pride and like, I guess, what do you mean I don't have a public active live stream on YouTube? Cast Labs is getting confused. It balances very well. Like, as a, how do I say this? Obviously, the dwarves are, it balances the stubbornness of dwarves, but like itself in a way which is self-referential. Like they're self-aware that they're stubborn, and it's able to then they're able to then also depict the whole strong family bond element of dwarven kinship. So I appreciate that, like, you know, Disa is able to go to the king and be like, you're just being really stubborn and you need to like not be stubborn, like you're literally being idiotically stubborn. And the king isn't like, how dare you, treason off with your head. They actually accept the criticism and like, well, you're right, but also we're stubborn, so what are we going to do about it? And I do like that kind of characterization of the dwarves here. And I do like the kind of way they're visually depicting the disconnect from the mountains. I like the whole idea of there being a group of dwarfs who can feel the vibrations of the mountains and playing that into song, and then that kind of disconnecting. The whole like fact that the mountain living is literally crumbling as the society is destabilizing. We get some lovely kind of halfling bits with the halflings and the stranger, who I'm just gonna keep calling Gandalf until I'm proved wrong. Um, I do like the kind of like the very kind of casual, gentle, friendly, familial kind of tone he takes with them. He's trying to give him names, and he's like, you know, not annoyed. He's like generally like kind of having a rapport with them. They've got a good chemistry between the two. I do like the cute bit where they're like, nothing's gonna split us up sentiment. After they revive him with the water. The part where they finish each other's sentences, the part where she's like, "Oh, I got stung by a scorpion that fell over, and that's how I found a cactus," and he finished that sentence for her. It's really cute. We find out who is following them, and actually, I criticized it last week. So I'm like, "Oh, we're doing the same plot again. There's always someone following this one guy. Why is it happening again and again?" Turns out it's the same group of people, so that's a bit more excusable. And it's being sent on by someone who is visually being very much signposted to us as Sauron. It's the same beard as Christopher Lee having with where it's like this big, like this dark bit near the chin and then white around it. It's a bit more darker than it is white, but it is deliberately trying to invoke Saruman. And I have to say, if they're doing two red herrings where we got this one figure who literally quotes Gandalf from the films and ends up not being Gandalf, and this one person who looks like Saruman but isn't Saruman, that is like too meta, and I'm like, it's a whole kind of Ralph Boner thing, and it's like, you need to stop. So I will assume it's a Saruman. Well, I mean, Saruman is meant to be like villainous in Lord of the Rings. From what I understand, that's a corruption that progresses, and he's not always been that way. So the fact that he's doing like blood magic, and he seems happy to use hostages, and he's going through like violent means capture Gandalf. I'll see how it turns out. Maybe we're misunderstanding something, but it is a lot of like, there's a lot of like backstabbing and like force, and like no one in this like universe just like asks nicely is what I'm getting at. But they attempt to go and kidnap the halflings as hostages, and Gandalf finds a staff and is like, haha, sandstorm, and it blows everyone away, including the halflings. He's like, whoops, that's too much sandstorm. I did criticize last week's episode as the elves being a bit too Vulcan-y. I think they do pull it back this episode. There's a bit more kind of emotions between Galadriel and Elrond. But I enjoyed seeing when Galadriel is literally trying to beg him like for different kind of. You can see she's trying to come up with different angles, trying to get him to help her out. The entire time he's just like kind of locking her out, being like, "I'm not going to be part of this because I think if I'm part of this, I will then become a collaborator." And then he has a conversation with Kiran, and he Círdan, that's the word. He goes and have a conversation with Círdan, and he's like, I wish you'd take a damn ring off. And he does this whole thing, which is very much kind of coded as separating the art from the artist, which is a bit meta. And I'm like, was someone involved in this production got cancelled? Are you trying to make a commentary about that? Obviously, it's a nuanced thing. You can separate the art from the artist to a degree, but you also have to be aware of the art. And it's like, you can. It's also, and I guess this is a good example of it. It's like you can separate the fact that, I'm trying to think of someone, a writer 100, 200 years ago probably had loads of problematic views, but they're dead now, and you're not supporting anything to do with them now by reading their art, and you can appreciate that as its own. And you need to be aware that a lot of the things they wrote will have been formed by that view, but equally it's a part of like the artistic tapestry that makes our world, versus someone now modern who's creating art, and if you support that work and you endorse and perpetuate that work, you are kind of encouraging them to create more work and do more of that damage. And I guess that's kind of like symbolically relevant here, where Sauron is obviously still like, they're worried about the fact that this object, this piece of artwork, has actual like malicious power in it, and by invoking it, you're not just bettering the world, you're also perpetuating what Sauron can do. But again, ring isn't art, it's also technology, and that seems to be the sorry, someone's throwing glass bottles out in a bin and distracted me for a second there. It's also technology that's actually a weapon that can be done that can be used to do something. So the metaphor kind of gets lost there a wee bit. But Kira does make a very point about if you think Vic makes a very good point that if you feel like your friend is like being like misled, then perhaps the safe thing to do would be to actually help them not be misled, like intervene. And I think actually, even though Galadriel looks offended at the end, I think giving control of her forces to Elrond actually makes more sense than anything else. So good shot, Gilgalad. So yeah, I think now that the episode's actually more full of content and more full of backs and forths, and we're adding more elements in it, and next week we'll just keep adding more and more elements into it. I'm getting more into it, and momentum's picking up. That's what we need. We're now a quarter of the way through, surprisingly, on the same day, because it's only an 8-episode series, and then when I watch the third one tomorrow, we'll be like a third of the way through, and then a half. So I'm glad they're picking up quite quickly, quite early. It's quite a limited plot that's being explored. So anyway, I've got a bounce. So thanks for tuning in, and I will see you all later on. Goodbye.